Marco, it's fantastic to have you here. Will you please put your hands together for Marco Penge? Thank you very much. How this is going to work is we're going to have a chat for 10 minutes or so, and then honestly, it's your call. Because one of the great things is that, it's not often you get a chance to ask a question of somebody who's not just on the tour, but is unbelievably successful on the tour. And there might be something, you're watching the telly on a Sunday night and you're thinking, I wonder what it might be. So today and now is your chance to ask that question, whatever it might be. So anyway, Marcus, it's great to see you. Marco, tell us, for those people here who don't know, just tell us, your links to the area, when you were a junior here, all that sort of stuff. Give us the background.
Yeah, I think I first joined Worthing Golf Club probably when I was about the age of 9. 9 to maybe 17, 16 years old, so I was here for a good 6-7 years of my early days of my career. So, yeah, fairly local boy. I'm originally from Horsham. Obviously my mum and dad travelled me down here to Worthing, and I always loved to come in here to practice and play, and the members and all the ex-players and pros that are still playing through here. Big part of my life, not only my career but my life as well. So yeah, it's great to be back.
Your mum and dad, are they here?
They are.
They are. Well, listen,
somewhere.
Because without them, you wouldn't be here. But looking at the sort of demographic here, a lot of people here will have young 9, 10, 11, 12-year-old kids. The role that parents play in those situations is unfathomable, isn't it? Without them, there is no tennis player, golfer, whatever.
Yeah, I've started to understand that a lot more now. I'm a father myself, so I obviously wouldn't be here without my parents. Same for everyone that's here ultimately. Yeah. So they played a big part in my career.
Was your dad or mum a golfer?
I think my dad tried to play, and he'd probably tell me that he couldn't play. But
at what age were you better than your dad?
Maybe at the age of like 9, 10.
9,
yeah. We weren't great.
But you were a good footballer as well.
Yeah.
And you had trials at Reading and Southampton. So was there a point where you thought one or t'other?
Yeah, when I was 13, the Reading scout got in touch with my dad, and that's kind of when he said it's either golf or football. And I was kind of probably too young to have made the decision myself, but I think my parents must have sat down and went through the logistics of it all. And I thank them today that it was golf, and still a massive football fan. I love football. I probably love it more than golf, but...
So how good a golfer, but if you were making that decision at 13, how good a player were you at 13?
Yeah, I think I had a pretty good junior
What were you
career.
playing off then?
I think I was off scratch at that point.
At 13? Okay. Make a note of that, by the way. It's okay.
Yeah, I was a good junior golfer and achieved, won junior titles, etc. And it's something that I've learned throughout my career. At that time, maybe when I was a junior or amateur, what I've learned is that I was so fixated on my handicap getting down, and you've got to do this and you've got to do that. And I think it's kind of a bit of a stereotypical thing in sport that you've got to be able to achieve this to be able to become a professional golfer, etc. The thing that I've learned is that say my son's going to be a golfer, I'd make sure that he's enjoying doing what he's doing. It's where you are when you're 25, 30 years old, not where you are when you're 15 years old. So that's something that I would say I've really learned and heard other players say the same. Me and Toby had a conversation about it this morning, and we both agree on that point. So,
was there a time when you, were 17, 18, 19, that you were so fixated by how well you were playing that actually the enjoyment had gone?
Yeah, I think I put so much pressure on myself. I wanted to get in the Walker Cup team when I was 17, and I didn't achieve that, and then my golf went downhill for about a year, and it probably took 4 years to get over the scar tissue. So that's like a massive learning experience that I've had. Looking back, like what would I have done different? You know, I wouldn't have done tons different because I'm really fortunate and grateful for the position that I'm in now, but that is definitely a big point.
Was there a moment in your career where you thought, because you never think you've cracked it, but was there a moment where you thought, I'm actually really good at this sport and I can, inverted commas, make it?
Yeah, I think I've always believed that I have something special or whatever people want to call it. I always believed in myself. You know, I have beliefs in myself that I don't really share to others, but I've always believed in myself and I've always felt like I had a lot of potential. You know, at the start of this year, I sat down with my team and said to them that I felt like I was probably at about 20% of my potential. And that
20?
Yeah, and I wasn't very happy. I'm pretty hard on myself and I'm my biggest critic, and yeah, you know, I would say we've done a pretty good job and made some changes to my team because of that point. And yeah, the rest is history in a way, and the last 6 months have been amazing. So yeah, you know, there's still a lot more to go, I believe, and it's just finding a way of how to get the best out of myself.
I mean, you mentioned the last 6 months. For the people who don't know, I mean, you've had an extraordinary run to the point where you were on the cusp of getting into the Ryder Cup team. Can you put your finger on what have you done differently? You know, apart from obviously sinking putts that you might have missed otherwise, but what have you done? Is it up there? Where is it?
Yeah, I mean, last year, it all kind of stemmed from the year before. You know, I had to make the cut in my last event on the DP World Tour to have the chance of keeping my playing rights out there.
For people who don't understand that, by the way, can I just sort of chip in? The keeping your tour card is the be-all and end-all of a player. It's like playing in the Premier League of football or getting relegated to the Championship. And I've spoken to a lot of people who've had children who've been in that situation with a 6-foot putt, and they're either going to keep their tour card or they don't. And it's utterly brutal to be in that world, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, being a professional athlete, doing it for a living, that's the hardest part. Is the mental side of it, the pressure, you know, not only the pressure that you put on yourself, but the pressure that you feel, you know, others, you know, you have an expectation and a lot of judgment. You know, you're in the public eye, your results are out there on the table, you know, on the website, anyone can see anything. So, but just going back to Korea, you know, I had to make the cut in my last event to keep my card, to have a chance to keep my card. And I had to make birdie on my last hole to make the cut. I was actually cruising for the first 27 holes. I felt I was playing great, and I was like, you know, it weren't really in my head that the cut line weren't in my head. And I made a terrible swing off the 12th and hit it out of bounds, and all of a sudden it was like, oh my God. Like, I felt so nervous. I was like, you know, I said to my caddie, I'm like, I feel so nervous. You know, there's no getting away from what was on the line. And it was kind of like, I accepted it. I was like, this is the position I'm in, and you've got to find a way. And I didn't feel very comfortable. And then 18 was like a par 5, dogleg left to right, round, and all hazard down the right hand side. And there were 2 fairway bunkers, kind of left half at the end of the fairway that I could reach.
It's not too traumatic going
through. Honestly, and I was, you know, I decided to hit a little low fade. It's a shot that I go to under pressure, and even then I was just like, I just want to guide it down there. I just want to don't hit it in the water, sort of thing. But I made the decision to myself behind the ball. I was like, if you're going to fail in the correct way. Stand there and throw some and do it. And it was pure. I hit it straight down the middle, and then I hit it just through the green for 2. So I kind of had like a 15-yard chip shots, and I needed to get up and down to make the cut. And it was slightly into grain, and I said to my caddie, like, do you think I should putt it? And he's like, you know, you're going to hit it closest chip in it. So I was like, right, okay, now I kept trying to go into an avoidance of trying to find an easy way out. Unfortunately, in that situation, there's no easy way out. And that's kind of what happens when you're under pressure and you're feeling nervous. What I've understood and learned is that you get anxiety and you want to try and find an easy way out. But I've learned that the only way to get better in them situations is to stand there and go, well, no, I'm happy to fail the correct way. I'm not going to guide it. I'm not going to be scared of it. And luckily I made up and down and went on to have a good
How
weekend.
far was the putt?
It was 5 feet.
5 feet. Okay, so everybody here who's played golf, whatever competition they played in, just socially even, I mean, you're just playing a social four ball, and you have a 5 foot putt, and you can feel your heart pounding. You think, what is wrong with me? I'm having a complete save over something that has no consequence at all, and yet there you are with a 5 foot putt that actually might determine the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So how do you approach a putt like that?
I mean, what I can remember is I called my caddie in for a read. I said, look, what do you reckon? And he said, what do you think? I said, well, I think it's pretty straight. If anything, it's going to go left. But I think if I start it straight, it's not going to miss a hole. And he was like, I like right half. So I was like, okay, well, let's hit it right half. And, I hit a great putt, my hands were shaking. And luckily it went in, thank God. But,
Your hands are shaking?
Yeah. Well, to be honest, I was pretty shaky on the first tee today, like no joke. I was.
Were you really?
Yeah.
Well, I can honestly say your second shot on the 18th was a thing of beauty onto the green. It was fantastic. A real shame you didn't sink the putt. I'll ask one more question and then I'll come out amongst you. So please don't be bashful. Anything you want to ask about being a professional golfer, being at the absolute top of the game or whatever, please, Marco will talk about anything. So the question I want you to ask, because one of the interesting things, you mentioned you've got a young child now, and your wife is a very good golfer, was a very good golfer. So golf's in your world, has been in your world. But it's a relentless job because it's week in, week out, God knows what else.
Yeah.
So just give us an indication, because there you are, as a father with a young child. Talk about your routine. The tournament finishes on a Sunday, maybe you get home on a Monday. Talk about a normal week.
Yeah.
I'm not sure normal's the right word, but a regular week for a golfer on the tour like you at the moment.
I mean, I've just come off the back of playing 6 weeks on the trot, so I normally, this year I've said to myself, Mondays are travel days, recovery days, getting in the gym, no golf on a Monday. At the end of the day, I want to save my energy for Saturday, Sunday. So last year was completely different. I was grinding every day. It was a bit of a mess. But Mondays is a travel day, it's a recovery day. Then Tuesday I tend to go out and play 9 holes in the morning, practice. So probably getting up at 5:30, 6 o'clock on a Tuesday and go back to the hotel for say 5 p.m. In the evening. And the same for Wednesday. Maybe 9 holes. I like to go and walk the course. I've walked the course on my own. I like to make sure I control the controllables. That's my kind of motto within my team, is controlling the things that we can control. And then the rest, it's not really up to us. Obviously we're trying our best, but some things are out of your control in golf. And then, play Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday, pack up the clubs on the Sunday.
Don't you love the way it says play Thursday, Friday, Saturday? There's no question of play Thursday, Friday, might play Saturday, Sunday. It's just kind of,
Well, I barely played a weekend last year. Play, throughout hopefully the 4 days, and then just kind of pack up your clubs on the Sunday evening, put them on the back run, and fly into your next destination on the Monday, and it's the same thing every week. And
here's a really boring question, but in terms of clothes and doing your washing and everything else, you get home and you're almost off, gone. How does that work?
Some weeks I don't even go home. Within that 6 week stretch, I had 3 weeks on the road, I didn't go home. Luckily I'm in a position where I have a really supportive wife, and we're in a position where she has a lot of support, and we're in a position where she can come to tournaments. So we try and manage it in the best way possible. But even when she comes to a tournament, it's not easy, because again I'm working from I leave the hotel room at 6:30 and I'm back at 5 o'clock, and dinner's at 7, and that 2 hours of 5 to 7 I kind of want to switch off in a way. But I'm even at the point now where I was really struggling to balance being a father and being a professional golfer. I'd get a bit of guilt, I felt like being a father was getting in the way of my golf, and my golf was getting in the way of being a father. So I've come to a really good routine now where everything's planned and structured, and in the day I'll say that between 6 p.m. and 7:30, that's the time I'm going to be a dad, and golf's not in the thought. That is definitely the hardest thing as a professional golfer, is trying to balance everything, you know, trying to balance seeing your family, friends, you know, being here today, all the things that you want to do outside of playing in a tournament. It's trying to find the time, but there's not much time.
Good answer.
Do you talk to other professionals and players about that and say how they deal with that?
Yeah, you know, I spoke to this year. I've spoke to a couple of, you know, top level players that have been at the top of the game, like people like Justin Rose and others. I kind of said to them, like, how do you find the balance of being a dad and trying to be the best in the world? Like, how do you do it? You know, and he kind of said a similar thing to how I do it. You know, maybe they don't struggle with the balance. Maybe they can switch off. I find it really hard to switch off. It's something that I have to really battle with, and yeah, I get tired pretty easy. I get overstimulated pretty easily, and my mind's a bit like a book of kids still. So yeah, you know, this is pretty overwhelming for me. Even just today's overwhelming. I don't like to be, you know, I'm just Marco Penge, who was born in Horsham, and that's it really. You know, it's great getting the support from everyone and feeling the respect and appreciation for me being so good at something. But ultimately, I'm still the same person, and I never want that to change. So.
That's what I say. I was talking to a couple of people back there earlier on, and they were saying, "Do you know what the best thing about him is?" And I said, "What's that?" I said, "He repairs all his pitch marks." I thought, well, there we are. That just says it all. He wasn't getting some flunky to do it for him. Listen, I'm going to ask one question, which you can then keep talking about while we go and find questions from the floor. Talk about relationships with wives, children. The relationship with the caddie always fascinates me. And I think over the last few years, television has finally realised that that's one of the most essential bits of compelling viewing. About, you know, a caddie saying, "I think it's a 7," and the player saying, "I think it's a 6." Well, you don't know what you're talking about, kind of thing. You know what? You can see the body language. Talk about the relationship between player and caddie. Respect. You know, who ultimately calls the shot?
Yeah, I mean, you know, for me, I think the caddie is probably the biggest part of the team. He's the person that I spend most of my life with. Probably spend 3 times the amount of time with my caddie than I do my wife in a year. So, you know, you feel like you're in a marriage in a way. You know, I'm very lucky to have a great guy on the bag. He kind of left his job when I kind of got rid of my last caddie, and he was someone I had an eye on, and you know, he's been awesome. I honestly can't praise him enough. To me, you know, because as good as this year's been, at the start of the year, I had quite a tough time. You know, I was in the limelight for, you know, most people probably know, having a bet in the major, etc. Played the whole year last year with that, and me and him were the only people that knew. So, you know, I tell him everything. I said to Scotty earlier on the course, he knows everything that's going on in my head. So that's how I think he can be the best thing for me. But you know, in terms of being a caddie on the golf course, yeah, you know, we have discussions and.
But when you're, I don't know, 150 yards from the green, and you're thinking it's a 9 because of whatever, and he says, "I honestly think you can make it with a wedge because whatever." Who ultimately makes the decision?
The player.
And you make the decision. But if you then, let's say you play the, I'm going to be a bit sort of going off on a rant here, but let's say you take a wedge, but you leave it short, and he says, "I told you it was a 9." Or does he not say that? No, I mean, how does that work?
From a caddie perspective, they, you know, if you went against their say, they would never then go like, "I told you everything."
Evening, when you're sitting there over a drink or whatnot or whatever, do you say, "Do you think possibly you might listen to me there?" Or
yeah, I mean, me and my caddie, we plan at the start. You know, our structure is that we sit down for 10 minutes after every day, and if there's anything on each other's mind about one or the other, is to raise it there and then. I don't want anything bottled up. You know, I've made that clear to him. So, you know, if I, you know, there's times where I'm like in my head, I'm like, oh God, like, why haven't I listened to him then? Why haven't I? I had one at Wentworth last week or whenever it was. It was a 14th hole par 3 up the hill, and it was 175, and it was slightly downwind, and I hit a 9-iron 170, 168. And there's like a bit of breeze, and he's like, I said, what do you like? Because I'm obviously in between 9 or 8, and the pin's at the front, so you can't, if you come up short, it's running back 20 yards. And he's like, I love 9, and it's perfect. So I'm like, okay. So I've teed it up and I've looked at it, and I'm like, mate, do you really think this is getting there? And he's like, 100% mate. So I'm like, okay, let's smash it. And I flagged it, pitched it about a yard short of the hole, and it's ripped off the green and come 30 yards short of the green. And I'm like, then I'm thinking, I knew it was not a 9, I knew it wasn't getting there. But then I don't want to make him feel bad, because it's like me as a person, I don't want to make anyone feel bad. And I'm like, oh, I'm really raging at him now, but I can tell he's really disappointed in himself. He's gutted, so I'm like, oh. So I was like,
So how does that conversation finish?
So it doesn't really finish.
When you
you kind of, you just walk off in silence, and then I kind of be like, it's alright mate, we can turn this around, it's all good mate. And then you get a couple holes, you make up and down.
Did you get up and down?
No, I didn't. But then I think I finished well, and then at the end of the day I kind of put my arm around him and I was like, hey, I told you it's late, didn't I? And we have a really good relationship, so it's great.
Fantastic. Right, listen, the floor is yours, so please stick your hand up. I'll come out with a microphone. Oh god, loads. Great, fantastic. Go away.
Hi Marco. I had the pleasure of seeing you when you were 13, 14, playing for the scratch team, the Pavitt Trophy up at Haywards Heath. Been following me ever since, and 2023 at Hoy Lake, who two of us were there at the practice day on the Wednesday, and saw you play with John Rahm, Phil Mickelson, and Herbie Long, and you were driving past Mickelson and Rahm, and unfortunately, we didn't get to see you play the next day because I think you were out last.
Yeah, that was
and the
a
weather was
awful.
awful. Anyway, a few weeks later, you then won your first tournament on the Challenge Tour, and then you went on to win the Order of Merit.
Yeah.
And for me, thinking back to when you were playing with Mickelson and Ryan, I just wondered what sort of advice and what you learned from playing with them.
Yeah, I think playing with people that are better than you is always something that's great. Playing with Phil, playing with John Rahm, I was probably really nervous too. I can't remember how I felt, but I was probably pretty nervous on the first tee. And I think in that sense, playing with people that are better than you, and them guys are obviously very well known, you're kind of nervous and you go out and play pretty well. You kind of prove to yourself that, okay, like, I can deal with this in a way, if you know what I mean. I've just proved to them what I can do. Phil had some really nice things to say to me at that time, which was nice, but I think this year I had the similar situations, playing at the Scottish Open in my first Rolex event with Matthew Fitzpatrick on the Saturday in front of Rory McIlroy and the other lad that was behind. It's like, almost like, oh my God, I can't believe I'm in and around these sort of players. I went on to finish second, and that was like the big turning point for me. It proved to myself that you can do this against the best players in the world, and since then I've played with more and more. So I'm just getting evidence, just proving to myself more than anything that you can deal with the pressure, and your talent and skill is plenty good enough. So
I'll ask a question to save anybody else doing it, because I'm sure they want to know. What's Rory like?
Yeah, I think he's been great to me. I actually stayed in the same hotel as him at the Irish Open a couple of weeks ago, and there was one evening I'd come down to dinner on my own, and I see him and all his family and his mum and dad, but there was only 2 tables left in the restaurant, and it was next to them. And I was like, oh, I don't want to be that guy. So I just went and sat down, kind of like, didn't say anything, and ordered the nice Guinness, to be fair, and the waiter brought it over, and then Rory's like shouting my name, like kind of, go on son, you're having a Guinness sort of thing. And then we started talking for like an hour while we were eating dinner, and he was great. So, you know, my experience with him is that he's awesome. You know, I used to think, you know, is he a bit too arrogant or whatever, and disagree with some of the things he said, but I'm starting to really realise now for him how hard it must be, because everywhere he goes it's like Rory, you know, and having that everyday life and having security guards follow you everywhere must be pretty hard to deal with. So I think he deals with it in the best way possible, really.
Yeah, mine was just to ask about the Ryder Cup, with you having the opportunity to be in it. I just wondered what your thoughts were about that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I got a call. Yeah, I don't know where to start with it. I was pushing as hard as I could to get in the team. Before the last 6 weeks that I've played, I wasn't meant to play in Denmark. I was meant to have that as a week off, and I decided to go and play. And I said to my team, like, look, I'm going to go and play, and we're playing 6 weeks in the trial, and they were kind of a bit like, you know, 6 weeks is a bit too much. But I was like, well, you know, it's a bit of a miracle, but I've got a chance of getting in the Ryder Cup if I go and win a couple of times, and I'm feeling good. So we decided to go and play in Denmark, and obviously went and won, and then I was obviously really in the question then, and Luke gave me a call when I got home, that, you know, he called me at like midnight Sunday night after London, back in the UK, and he said, like, look, you're making it really hard for us, you're in the calculations, keep doing what you're doing. So I was like, okay, like, maybe I'm a little closer than I actually think. Let's keep this run going. And then I went to British Masters and finished 6th, and then went to Switzerland and finished 8th. And I played with Alex Noren in Switzerland, and I knew he was going to be a vice captain. So I was kind of then thinking, like, okay, now they've put me with Alex Noren, like, who's going to be a vice captain, and he hadn't been announced at that point. Like, they're obviously very interested. Played pretty good and finished 8th, and then got a call from Luke on Sunday saying, you know, that I wasn't getting picked, etc. But you know, it's not too gutting for me. I would have dreamed to have been in the position that I am now. My season's been, you know, I'm over the moon and very proud of myself.
And you wouldn't have played here today?
Exactly, yeah.
Which is the main thing. Everybody would have been in a similar situation in a different aspect of their life. Presumably you've got Luke Donald's number in your phone. So when he rang you, it came up as Luke Donald.
Yeah, it did.
Was there part of you that thought, I can't bear to answer this phone call? Because you don't know which way it's going, and you'd almost rather he left you a message or a text or something. I'm not going to press.
I knew I was getting called between 5 to 7 p.m. in Switzerland, and
right.
I was actually in the car with my caddie driving to the airport to fly to Ireland, and he obviously called, and I had a feeling that I wasn't going to get in. I was, you know, he had the opportunity to pick the same team as he did 2 years before. You know, it's an away Ryder Cup in America, which is very hostile for the players and their families, and ultimately, I haven't proved to him whether I'd be able to deal with it or not in America. So, you know, I feel like I would have thrived under it. He doesn't know me very well. He's gone pretty safe, which is, you know, he hasn't picked the wrong team. But I feel the golf course would have really suited me, and they told me that. And they said from a statistic.
When you watch the Ryder Cup?
I don't know. Oh yeah, I'm pretty done. I will obviously be supporting them, and you know, normally I'd watch it, but not allowed to have a bet on the Ryder Cup anymore.
Two questions. Firstly, what was the first bet on the Ryder Ryder Cup that you had then?
I think I just like had a little accumulator in like the singles or something like that.
How about second did you win?
Yeah, I don't even think I did. So, yeah, I think I was doing wrong, and obviously I was doing wrong, and held my hands up and said, I'm sorry, I made a mistake. But yeah, I mean, everyone has their opinion on how they dealt with it, and the players made it pretty clear when I came back that everyone was pretty raging with the way they dealt with it. But it was the best thing that happened to me in my career, and you know, I can just only thank them now for that, because I'm a different player to who I was last year. So.
The other thing was the putt you had to keep your card. Contrast that to the putt you had to win win in Denmark. How different was that putt? It was similar sort of distance.
To keep my card, it was so much harder. I think when you're in a position to win, and I don't know if anyone else thinks this way, but you know, you're obviously playing great, and you have an opportunity to win a golf tournament, and it's what you want to do. But you know, if the guy who you're up against plays better than you, and you come up just short, it's kind of like, well, you know, I've still had a great week. Yeah, I haven't won, and I want to win, but you know, I've still had a great week. And when I had that 5-footer, and you know, he made eagle for me to then hold a 5-footer, I was kind of like, you know, if I miss this, then we'll go down and play off, and I've got another chance to win. So, you know, there's no point looking too much into it. Just go up to it. It's right half and knock it in, and let's see what happens. And I knocked it in. So I try and look at it from that perspective, that it's not a big deal. Obviously it is. I'm constantly telling myself it doesn't matter, it doesn't matter, it's all good. I'm going to do it, you know, it's not going to change anything.
Any more questions?
Hi Marco. If I'm correct, as a result of your fantastic achievements this year, you've now earned yourself a PGA Tour card.
Yeah.
I'm just interested to see what your plans are for next year in terms of playing in the States.
Yeah.
Do you think we might see you at the Masters, maybe?
Yeah, I mean,
what's that going to require for you?
Yeah, that's my goal now is the Masters.
Thank you.
You know, I've got till the 31st of December to get top 50 in the world to qualify. You know, there is another qualifying, I think, next year, but my goal is to qualify by next year. Yeah, so, you know, that's my main focus at the moment. You know, you may have heard a couple of weeks ago, and I had an interview that I'm trying to win the race to Dubai, but you know, Rory's pretty good, so I thought I've got a chance, but he's made it pretty clear that he's not going to let me do that, so I just have to accept secondly. But yeah, my goals for the rest of the year are to qualify for the Masters, and the person that gets the first PGA Tour card get into two elevated events as well. Which is the players at Sawgrass and another event. So, you know, finishing first over second with the cards is quite a big thing. And then yeah, I'll be playing a full season in America next year. Gonna have to move out there in January and move my family there, etc. But yeah, and then hopefully catch, you know, Wentworth, Irish Open, Scottish Open, the Open, all that stuff here next year. So
everybody watching the play today. So a couple of final questions for later. One, how do you hit the ball so bloody far?
Where's on 16?
Yeah, but you had it downwind, mate. We had it right. I don't know. I mean, obviously it's a combination of my genetics, it's a combination of working hard in the gym, my technique. It's a combination of quite a lot of things. So yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard. I think a lot of it's down to my genetics, to be honest. Yeah.
Talk and just
long and lanky and dangly and trying to like bulk up at the gym, but that happened, and yeah.
So if whatever level of anybody's playing in the room, if you had one piece of advice from the experience you've had getting to the very, very top of the game about the game as a whole, to your average club player here, what would that be?
you know, it's probably a bit cliche, but just making sure you enjoy it. You know, golf's a great game. You know, we all want to be the best we can be and shoot this and blah blah blah. But at the end of the day, when you step on that first tee, you're trying your best. So I think the most important thing is to realise how lucky you are to be playing the game and meeting the people that you meet, and playing. You're in the nature, all that stuff. I think it's just having fun, enjoying it. Today was. I absolutely loved being here today. It was awesome. It was great. So, today was great for me.
Last question, which I was going to ask you this at the start, but I thought I'd leave it to the last. And it's always a bit dangerous reading anything on Wikipedia, because you think, really, is that true? I know from personal experience a lot of it's not. But you are quoted as saying that when Italy play England at football, you want Italy to win.
No, I'm 50-50.
Have you,
I'm 50-50.
So you can never lose, can you?
No, that's a win-win situation.
Alright, okay. Are Arsenal still losing?
Arsenal?
I think they're still. Anyway, I'm sorry about that. But anyway, can I just say,
you've loved being here today. I'm sure if I can speak on behalf of everybody, we've loved having you here today. It's just been fantastic, and you've been brilliant tonight. Thank you so much.
Thank you for everyone being here and making this day happen. I know Pete, I don't know everyone that's made this day happen, but Pete's been in touch with me, and as soon as he asked me about it, I said if I'm around 100%. So it's been great for me to come back to Ware and see everyone that I played with growing up, the members I still remember, faces, etc. Some people introduced themselves to me this morning, but I remember the faces I saw when I was a young boy. So I'd just like to thank everyone for the support that you've given me. And yeah, thanks for everyone for making it awesome. I've loved it, and hopefully we can maybe do this further down the line, have a bit of a 5-year.